Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second annual Spring Virtual Conference. I am Rachel Altum. I am the online community manager for the Gypsy Nurse, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in today. We want to thank Travel Nurse Across America for being this year's Spring Virtual Conference sponsor. So be sure to check out their jobs on thegypsynurse.com. You'll be able to filter on our job board, find those jobs, and find your dream location. So make sure you get over there. It is our last day of our conference, which I'm so sad. It's been such a fun week. And if you don't already know, this year's theme is Peaks and Valleys of Travel Nursing, which you guys have been through so much. So it's definitely a perfect theme for our travel nurse community, especially with these past 2 years. So I just want to thank you all so much for everything that you do. You guys are all truly amazing, and we love having you in our community. The next 3 days, we will be having all kinds of giveaways. So if you are commenting, asking questions, one of you will win a $100 Amazon gift card, or another person will win a $150 Amazon gift card. If you register for any of the events, the remaining events, you will be entered to win a $50 Amazon gift card or a Gypsy Nurse tumbler with a 25 Starbucks gift card. Yesterday's winners, so a little drum roll here, were Christina Bernal, if I say your names wrong, I'm so sorry, Jamie Giard, and Joanne Hart. So we've emailed all of you, so be on the lookout for marketing@thegypsynurse.com in your mailbox. So be sure to watch out for those. If you can't attend all the sessions, please still register to receive the reminders. So that way, once they've been published on thegypsynurse.com, you'll be able to watch it. But you have to be a registered member to watch these. So if you want to share them or rewatch them again, you'll definitely need to be a registered member, which we have tons and tons of perks for being a registered member. You can get CEs from Elite Learning, access on-demand events like these ones in our past sessions, set up content, job, and event alerts, connect and communicate with other travel nurses. We will be having some fun events in the future for our registered members. Nurses Week is coming up. It's going to be here before you know it. So we all know that's our favorite week to celebrate all of you. And right now I want to give you a little sneak peek. It's not in our store yet, but we want to show you our Nurses Week official t-shirt.
Can we do the drum roll, Rachel? I don't know how to do that.
Too late. Sorry. So this will be our shirt. It will be going on sale for pretty soon. So keep an eye out. Register on thegypsynurse.com so that way you can get event reminders and reminders for this shirt with the newsletter. We'll be definitely letting you know when it comes out. So
I think this shirt, Rachel, is going to resonate with many people in the travel nursing industry.
Definitely. And if you
this is going to be a hit.
And if you can't read what it says, "Don't call me a hero and then throw me a pizza party." So I think we all can kind of resonate with that and understand.
Need we say more?
Yes. So we will be promoting that, but that's just a little sneak peek of what our Nurses Week will be like. We're going to have tons and tons of fun all week long. So like I said, register on thegypsynurse.com so that way you can stay up to date with these events. So I would also like to pass it over to Steve Curtin, our CEO of the Gypsy Nurse. He has a few words to say as well.
Good morning, Rachel. That's my first few words. Good morning, Rachel. Great to see you again. Day number 3. Hard to believe it's flying by, and we've had some absolutely fantastic sessions. We've had some very serious discussions. We've had some fun. We had the dating game last night, if you will. So we've had some great sessions, and I really want to thank everybody for participating in this second annual spring conference. As Rachel said, this will be available if you've missed it or you have to jump off. All of these sessions will be available on demand starting next week, but you must be a registered member of thegypsynurse.com in order to access. And if you're not, And Rachel and I will ask you, why not? Why aren't you? So anyway, great to see everybody. Welcome. I'd like to welcome the Gypsy nurse community to our virtual conference. A couple of items I would like to mention. Number one, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all travel nurse professionals, all travel healthcare professionals for their work and service over the past 2 years. As Rachel mentioned, the theme of this spring's conference is the peaks and valleys of travel nursing, and that wasn't by accident. We thought a lot about what the theme should be, and I think it's very appropriate. There's certainly been some peaks and there's been some very low valleys, but all in all, I think the community has persevered and is moving forward. Hopefully we come out of this terrible pandemic at some point in the near future, but we do want to recognize all of the sacrifice and service that all healthcare professionals have put into helping us get through this pandemic. So that's number one. Number two, I do want to thank our sponsor, Travel Nurse Across America. They are one of the sponsors of the Gypsy Nurse. They're a great company to work with, and they are helping us through this entire conference. If you're interested in working with Travel Nurse Across America for any of their travel nurse or allied travel openings, you can visit our website, thegypsynurse.com, and you can filter by agency and find their great jobs, or certainly you can go directly to their website for Travel Nurse Across America. So thank you, Travel Nurse Across America, for supporting us in this conference. Finally, I do want to make a little public service announcement. For those of you that may not know, our organization has been engaged with a third-party market research firm over the past few months to survey the travel nurse community. We wanted to go out there and get kind of the attitudes and experiences and input from travel nurses for those that have had assignments over the past 2 years during the pandemic. So we have designed and have delivered a very extensive online survey that over 1,000 travel nurses have responded to in detail. So thank you for everybody that participated. The survey is now closed, and we are working with the market research firm to put together a report that we will be releasing, should be around the end of May. It will be publicly available. We're also going to release it to the media, and we're hoping that by gathering this information and really hearing from the community about what they went through, what they're currently going through, what their attitudes are towards nursing and their career, their futures, and so forth, that this helps improve healthcare and the healthcare industry for all. So please be on the lookout for it. It's going to be called The Voice of Travel Nursing. We'll be releasing that at the end of May. So with all that said, Rachel, I will throw it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. And so now the moment you've all been waiting for, we're all making all this, well, you guys are. I'm not making your travel nurse money, but you're making all this wonderful money and you don't know what to do with it. You're, doing all your shopping. So we have Marlon Wesh, a travel nurse financial advisor, and he'll be discussing 4 requirements to building lasting wealth while avoiding the common pitfalls. So please welcome Marlon. Hi, Marlon.
Welcome, Marlon.
Hey, Rachel. Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here. Thanks for being
pleasure,
here. We appreciate it.
And welcome to all of you travel nurses that are on the call. I'm really excited to talk to you today, and we'll get started.
Yeah, I will let you guys go.
Thanks, Rachel. Marlon, I'm wondering, before we get started, we were talking before the call earlier. We just want to mention that you're not going to be providing any tax advice, and you're not serving as an advisor in this capacity. It's simply just observations and perhaps suggestions, but you're not acting in a financial advisor capacity for any individual at this point, correct?
That is correct. Highly recommend that if you have any specific tax or financial questions that you have, that you talk to your personal financial advisor, your personal tax advisor, to get their particular view on your individual situation. So today it's just going to be informational and educational, and that's what it should be taken as.
Fantastic.
Well, hi everyone again. Marlon Wesh here. My moniker is the Travel Nurse Financial Advisor, because that's who I work with, travel nurses. And I want to welcome you to today's session. It's really, really exciting today. As you can see, the title of our presentation today is Climbing the Financial Ladder, 5 steps to leveraging your travel income to creating wealth built to last. I'm sure you've been on so many different webinars where there's a lot of preambles, stories about the presenter, and you were probably pulling your hair out saying, let's just get to the good stuff already. So if it's all the same with you, I'm going to skip all of that stuff that people usually do because I got some really fantastic content for you, and I don't see any reason why I should keep you from getting that right away. So let's talk about who this is for. This presentation is for travel nurses who want to leverage their travel income to completely transform their financial life. So if you're a travel nurse and you have plans on traveling for at least 2 to 5 years, and you want to make sure that life after travel is better than life before travel, then this presentation is for you. What's going to happen is in the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you why or how my travel nurse clients, how they enjoy their, stipend money and their other money without fearing an IRS audit or sacrificing their chances of getting a home loan, how they capitalize on the employee benefits offered at their travel agencies, how they get to handle emergencies, financial emergencies in a stress-free way, so that they're not worrying about money every time they're, let's say, in between assignments or what have you. I'm going to show you how they pay off student loans and credit card debt without taking 10 plus years to do it. How they save and invest for retirement without sacrificing a comfortable lifestyle today because you work hard and you deserve to be comfortable. How they get personalized financial support that's tailored to their unique situation as travel nurses, how they find good quality investments and that they feel confident about their stability, and how they just achieve simplicity, how they achieve transparency and complete control over every aspect of their finances. If I have a big promise, it's that I'm going to let you in on the same strategy that they use to build personal wealth throughout their travel nurse career, so you can live the life that you want to live and live it on your own terms. But before we start, I want to take time to meet you where you're at and let me know if any of this sounds like you. Did you start off travel nursing because you were honestly sick and tired of busting your ass as a staff nurse? You realized you had bills to pay, you had student loans you're trying to pay off, you're trying to save for retirement, you're trying to live a good life, and you just weren't getting any further in creating that life that you really wanted? Do you find yourself stressed that because you're just disorganized with your finances, with your travel records, with your plans for the future? So you typically just let the agency handle everything. They cut you the check, you carry on your merry way. But you got this nagging feeling that, I don't know, am I leaving money on the table? Should I be doing this a different way? Do you feel anxious that in 1 year alone, you've worked 3, 4, 5 different states, and now you have to file taxes in some of them and not in the others, and you don't know which one's the right way to go about it? Do you have a 401k plan, a 403b plan at your agency, and you don't know the best way to invest in it, or how much to put in it, or what are you going to do with the money after you leave that travel agency? Do you have a really disjointed financial strategy because you got multiple apps that you're using? Maybe you use spreadsheets, maybe you have a good old legal pad and a pencil and a pen, and you're struggling to stay organized to do all this. Do you find it highly complicated to manage your monthly finances while at the same time planning and investing for your long-term goals? Are you secretly terrified that, okay, you're going to be traveling for a set amount of time, and if you don't take that time, that 2, 3, 4, 5 years that you're a travel nurse, and if you don't do something right now, that you're going to lose out on the opportunity to leverage all this travel income you've been earning to significantly improve your financial situation after the travel? If any of that sounds like you, I actually have some really good news for you. Because the truth is, none of that is the real problem. They're just symptoms of the problem. The real problem is that you haven't made what I like to call the shifts, right? And we're going to talk about what those are in just a moment. But for right now, know this, that once you finally make those shifts, you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror and with this pride and knowing that the person that's reflected there created this amazing, sustainable lifestyle for themselves, for their family. You'll be able to sleep soundly knowing that you've not only protected yourself from, emergency financial loss, but you've also given yourself and your family the gift of a financial head start and possibly for generations to come. You'll be able to take your vacations to Tulum and Joshua Tree and relax with this peace of mind, knowing that rewarding yourself for hard work is not going to take away from yourself and your family's future. You'll be ecstatic that this amazing life that you've created for yourself, it doesn't only benefit yourself and your family, but it also supports charitable causes you care so much about. And you'll be invigorated by the fact that you now know how money works. You now have the confidence that you could hold your own in a group of other successful professionals as they want to talk about all these little financial things that they talk about, right? You're going to have this just sense of gratitude that you've got this step-by-step game plan that's going to help you break through just that, the income ceiling of just earning, so you can then grow that nest egg, retire when you want, and enjoy financial security. So a little bit about me. I have my bachelor's in financial planning and an MBA in taxation. And in the past, I've worked at Wall Street firms, Edward Jones Investments, Merrill Lynch. And now what I do is I help travel nurses crush their most important goals by helping them optimize taxes, accelerate their retirement savings, and maximize investments. And I'm so excited to share with you how you can have those same outcomes. I would say that I like patterns. I like to find trends, and I like to find patterns in things. I've always been that way since I was a kid. And over the years I've spent in the financial industry, I've worked with a lot of different types of people. I've worked with different personalities, people with different goals, starting at different places in their lives. And of course, I have colleagues in this space, and they have clients as well, and they work with a lot of different personalities as well. And as colleagues do, we would swap, work stories. And over time, I came to see that there were several trends or patterns that were indicators for success with clients. And I began to realize that there was a massive difference where some of the people I was working with, they were really crushing it in their finances. And then others were barely able to navigate it. The people that were winning, I started to realize that there were 5 things that they did that was key to their above average results. So I started testing my hypothesis. I standardized those 5 things, and I made it mandatory with all the clients that I worked with. And immediately, my client success rates began to climb. Their confidence in their future did too. What I want to tell you is that there are 5 strategic shifts you must make in order to leverage your current income to create a 7-figure nest egg and beyond, so you can really be on your way to building lasting wealth. And today, I'm going to take the time to walk you through all 5 of them on this session, beginning with our very first shift, which is you have to start with clarity before you can implement any strategy. I want you to take a moment and really, really take this in. You have to start with clarity before you can implement any strategy. Probably the biggest mistake that I see travel nurses make, financial mistake, is making financial decisions based on someone else's good idea. I have met with hundreds of travel nurses, some who have become clients, and while doing their taxes, I discovered that they claimed exempt income and ended up owing the IRS as much as $77,460 because another nurse told them it was a good idea. I'll honestly never forget that number. I'm so traumatized to it to this day. You see, without a true understanding of what your goals are, what your financial position is, what the facts of your situation is, you're going to start buying into strategies, systems, or products that on the surface level, they seem like good ideas, right? But just aren't, because your individual needs are different. And you'll find yourself pulled in by these one size fits all good money advice, or sometimes just straight up predatory financial sales practices. I'm sure you've heard some of this one size all advice, like, "Oh, debt is bad. Must not do anything else until it's all gone," or "build generational wealth and buy this life insurance policy," or create multiple streams of passive income, flip houses, buy multiplex, trade forex, do this, do that, right? The noise is incessant, but it truly makes no sense to make any decision, any financial decision, if you don't have a way to, one, measure your financial health, and if you don't have a care plan to improve it. You just can't make any intelligent and informed decisions if you don't have an accurate picture of your current finances. Does that make sense, guys? If you fail to do this, you're going to find yourself pulled in so many different directions that really have no way of realistically getting you closer to your goals. And you may actually find that you're losing out on significant opportunities to grow what you're building today. There's going to be many different financial strategies. There are tons of different financial schools of thoughts. You'll find a dime a dozen get-rich-quick schemes, and a lot of them, most of them, they sound and they feel legit. And that's why you've got to first make the shift of clarity before even attempting to come up with a strategy. So many travel nurses, when I talk to them at first, ask questions like, "Oh, should I be investing in a Roth IRA or should I be investing in a traditional IRA? Should I use this account? Is this stock good? Is this, should I invest in real estate? Should I do this?" That's strategy. But it's an important conversation to have, but it's a tad too early if you don't know where you are today and where you want to go. Only when you do that, that's when you'll be in that position to accurately identify what those key opportunities are. You'll be able to evaluate any gaps in your finances and then prioritize your strategies in line with what's important to you. Does that make sense? Speaking of prioritization, that's a perfect segue for our second shift, which is you've got to learn to triage for success. Now I'm talking to a room full of nurses, so you guys know what triage is, and you guys do it well, right? Especially you ICU nurses. Here's the truth. The most important skill you probably could develop in your everyday life would be just to triage every day. We have the limited resources of time and money. And we need to be able to intelligently leverage those resources to turn our money into more money so we can live the type of lives that we want. If this wasn't true, if we didn't have the limited resources of time and money, there would be no reason to talk to a financial expert or to do any types of financial planning, because you would have all the time in the world and you would have all the money in the world. It would take care of all your problems. But the truth is, the reason why your finances overwhelm you is because you won't allow yourself to accept that you can't escape that trade-offs exist in every decision you make. If you choose to do one thing, there is something that you're unable to do on the other hand. Financial triage, it exists to help you make those intelligent decisions, and those decisions are always between two or more, keyword here, unideal choices. Once you accept that these trade-offs have to be made, then you can be at peace with making the choice that is best for your unique situation. I want to talk to you about a client of mine, Jess. So when I started working with Jess, she was travel nursing because she had a lot of debt she wanted to pay off. Before we started working together, she had decided to go exempt for a year to try to pay off her debt, but then she ended up owing the IRS well over $50,000 since then. After after meeting, doing the first step, which is getting clarity, we took a look at where she was today, where she wanted to be in the future, and we decided the best thing for her was to create a schedule. We created a quarterly schedule where we reviewed her tax withholding for every assignment that she did, right? Before every assignment, we made sure that what was coming out was no more or no less than what was appropriate for her assignment. And then we made the call to actually put off paying any more of her debt, except for the minimum payments, until we could fully fund an emergency fund, because that was the reason why she had so much debt. She kept, like, her dog got sick and she had to pay thousands of dollars for the vet. There were all these things that happened to her that she didn't have cash to meet the emergency when it happened. So when we fully funded that emergency fund, then we moved on to applying that extra income she had to paying off her loans and credit card debt. We actually did a calculation to see, like, what was the value add based off our advice, and the value add doing it our way was over $200,000. And that is why, starting with clarity first and then picking your strategy, that is why triage, right? Kind of taking a look at the two unideal situation and which one needed to be addressed first. That's why that's so important. Our third shift is that you gotta weigh the opportunity costs. Most people get really sucked into really bad situations because they don't have a framework for weighing out the opportunity costs of the decisions they make. So opportunity costs is defined as the loss of the benefit that could have been enjoyed had another given choice not been made, right? So it's the give this for that. I worked with a travel nurse whose primary goal was buying a house in the next 12 months. And so my advice was that for her assignments for the year, to get them completely taxed. And now most people agree that no one wants to pay taxes if they can't avoid it. But in her case, we had to weigh the opportunity cost of what was the most important at the time, which was having enough money reported in her at the end of the year to qualify for a mortgage, right? And so that made sense for her, even though it felt like it hurt her pocket. But her most important thing was, I want to buy a house. And she was not going to be approved for a house with $30,000 of reported income. The other thing I wanted to say is that there's this big potential trap. And this happens with a lot of travel nurses who are first generation wealth builders. I'm a first generation professional, first generation college graduate in my family. And so I understand the pressure of being the first to start making a certain amount of money, being the first to start to hit certain milestones. And you feel, because of that your life needs to reflect an image of success. So because you have a lot of cash flow, you may be like, all right, I can make the $1,000 monthly payments on this Audi, right? I have the cash flow to do it right now. But what about the other things that you want to do and you need to do? About saving for retirement, being able to put a down payment on a home, anything else. Like, that's a massive chunk of change that you can no longer use to go to work for you. And then there are two choices you can make. You can be like, I don't care. I like the way I feel in this car, and I'll deal with the repercussions later. And a lot of people do that, right? Because they like how the other choice makes them feel. And so they rationalize their poor decision. I'm here to say this. Let the math make the decision for you. Let the math tell you what is the right decision, and then work to build your mindset around that decision. I worked with this other nurse, Nate. He was a little emotional about putting off retirement because he wanted to completely pay off his debt first. This is a huge trend I have with most most travel nurses that I start working with. Invariably, everyone says, like, I want to pay off all my debt, in the next year. But after weighing the opportunity costs for both decisions, right, putting off retirement planning and and putting all his extra money to pay off all debt that he had, we found out that the longer he waited to save for retirement, meant the more money he would have to put aside every month to reach his retirement goal. And we looked at the savings that he could potentially, like savings of the monthly payment as well as interest from the student loan and the mortgage. It wasn't enough cash flow at the end to actually support his retirement needs anyway. And the reality was, the older he got, the more challenging work options would be for him. So we listened to the math and we drew up a plan between his agency's 403B, his outside savings, to fund retirement primarily while paying off his debt obligations. So yes, he would be paying off his debt obligations for longer than he would have hoped, but he also wouldn't be, broke at the end of paying off the debt and having nothing saved for retirement. The value added for this was we were able to add approximately $800,000 to the end to his expected retirement balance, just because we decided to weigh the opportunities and listen to the math. Let's take a minute right now and do a quick recap. So what do we know so far? At this point, we know that we need to get clarity before getting into any strategy, right? This allows us to find financial gaps and identify key opportunities. We also learned that we need to be able to triage our finances, right? Because we've got what? The limited resources of time and money. And we got to be able to prioritize our actions. And we also learned that we need to be able to weigh the opportunity costs of our decisions to ensure that we're moving in the direction that's providing the highest benefit. Now, it's really, really important that you're able to combine these three shifts into a cohesive strategy. Unfortunately, the way most of you are currently managing your finances makes that almost impossible to do. And so let's talk about a simple yet powerful framework that will give you complete control over every aspect of your finances. It's our secret weapon, and it's called the EGBT model. The EGBT model stands for establish, grow, preserve, and transfer. The model is the most powerful and efficient way to steer your finances in the direction of your needs and life goals. And it does all of this while simplifying every aspect of your finances, from taxes to budgeting to saving and investing. And what it does, it helps you eliminate the old way of managing your finances. And what's the old way, you're asking? Well, I'm sure you're very familiar with it. It sounds like this, right? Like having a bunch of different apps to track your travel expenses, make a budget, and then invest. Going to a tax professional, justify your taxes, but they don't advise on making it more tax efficient or anything else. Maybe using your travel Facebook groups to get answers about your 401k, investing, and how to get a home loan on a travel salary from a bunch of other people who have no idea what they're talking about. It might be signing up for risky and sketchy, Forex and options trading programs. Maybe searching Google to put together an underwhelming investing strategy, or piecemealing financial products and strategies from every financial salesperson that just happens to accost you, right? Like, why would you trust your financial future in the hands of someone who potentially can't get in trouble for leading you the wrong way, right? They're unlicensed. They just set up a little pretty website and they're like, hey, I'm a financial professional now, right? Where's the accountability? Does any of this make any sense, right? Looking at this graph, you got Expensify in the middle, and then maybe you file taxes with H&R Block. Maybe you use Wealthfront to do your little investing. Oh, I got my budget with my Mint app. Maybe you just use Microsoft Excel, and it's like, oh, I'm on Robinhood, I'm buying Bitcoin. Or maybe you're in your Facebook groups and you're getting advice, right? The problem with all of this is that there's no direction, right? It's not cohesive. All these different apps and services, they don't communicate with each other. to create a sound, easy plan to follow. When you do it this way, you end up losing tons of time. Um, you end up losing so much energy, money that you can never get back because you invested all that time and energy into these resources that fairly up until now you probably felt was the only thing available to you. But there's a new way, and the new way is so much better. And the new way is simple. I love simple. You won't need a different professional for tax needs, and one for your financial planning needs, and one for your investment needs. You won't need to piecemeal these different apps and spreadsheets just to stay organized. And you certainly won't need to crowdsource financial advice from your peers in your Facebook groups. The EGPT model can replace all of that dysfunction with a simple process that looks like this. You first establish a foundation for building wealth by identifying your available financial resources, setting actionable goals and targets. Then you grow the wealth you're building by implementing the best strategy that will support your unique needs. Remember, we're talking about you specifically, not in general. Then you want to set up guardrails to preserve the wealth that you're building. And because obviously we can't take anything with us when we die, you want to set up a system to transfer wealth to loved ones while setting up clear instructions for when you can no longer communicate your wishes. Establish, grow, preserve, transfer. Very simple process. And all of this should be managed by your financial chief of staff. So your financial chief of staff should manage the entirety of your finances through a single lens of your unique goals and needs, right? So they should completely organize your financial life and travel portfolio. They should file your taxes and audit them for savings. They should develop an action plan for retirement and your other financial goals. And they should create an investment strategy to fund it. All of your financial needs should be taken care of under one roof where you communicate with one person and your strategies all work together to solve one goal. Think about it this way. You have to think about your professional that you're working with. What is their incentive to give the advice that they're giving you? What is their incentive to sell the financial product that they're selling to you? Let's say that all I did was provide a tax filing service. My big incentive would be like, oh, I need to try to get this person a refund or whatever, right? If all I did was investment management, my incentive would be like, I need to gather all these assets so I can charge more on the portfolio. With the financial chief of staff looking at your tax area, looking at your financial planning, looking at your investment management, they're working off they're working off your goals first, saying like, this is the objective that Jane has. This is the objective that Tyler has. So if this is their objective, it makes sense for them to make these steps, take these steps, these actions for their specific objective. And my advice to Jane is not the same advice that I give to Tyler because it's different. And a financial chief of staff can do that for you. But a siloed professional that only sees tax, that only sees investments, that only sees planning or coaching, only sees within their scope of expertise and doesn't see the big picture. Let me tell you about my client, Shelly. She had really no direction about what she should be doing to take care of her finances when we met. She had a bunch of different apps and she had spreadsheets that she actually used. I remember when we first started working together, she emailed me all her spreadsheets that she was using to track her savings and budget. She did have a tax preparer that prepared her taxes every year, but they didn't help her plan on how to be efficient. She didn't have anyone helping her with retirement planning. Instead, she just used Robinhood to trade. Unfortunately, she had a cousin that encouraged her to buy an expensive life insurance policy and told her stuff like, oh, you're not going to be able to lose money in this. It's guaranteed. You'll become your own bank. You'll be able to borrow money from it and blah, blah, blah. But after taking a look at it, we found out that over the past 3 years of her holding that policy, and if she had taken that same money and just put it in some sleepy ETFs, she would have earned $50,000, which she had, I think, $4,000 in cash savings in her policy in return. So by leveraging our EGBT model, what we did was, one, she had the single point of reference, taking a look at her entire financial life, from tax, financial planning, and investing. And now she has a plan that, because we've had that conversation about goals, where she wanted to be 5 years, 10 years, 15, 25 years down the road, all the financial recommendations are based on that. That's really the power of the EGPT model when you combine it with that financial chief of staff. But the truth is that none of this is possible unless you leverage our last shift, which is sometimes you just need to invest in expertise. I find that there's usually one reason why people don't invest in expertise. It's typically because we're in the information age. Internet is full of information. And most people feel that, oh, because I can find it on the internet, I'll figure it out and I'll save myself the money. The truth is, like, I probably can Google anything that you were taught in school. I could find a nursing textbook. I could find a textbook that says how pharmaceuticals interact with each other. But by golly, it doesn't mean I know enough to make complex healthcare decisions. Like, I'm not gonna watch 3 seasons of Grey's Anatomy and be like, put me in, coach, ready to do surgery. The same is true about connecting the dots to your financial life. Here's a simple fact. You wouldn't go running into a minefield blindfolded. That would be absolutely ridiculous, right? Instead, you'd probably want to follow whoever the person is that made it through the minefield with all their limbs intact. And you're like, all right, you seem to know where you're going. Let me follow you. That just makes sense. Unfortunately, because of information, the hoard of information we have has really increased the overconfidence bias that most people have. And we know overconfidence bias is just this tendency to hold a misleading assessment of our own skills, our own talent, our own intellect. It's an egotistical belief that we're better than we actually are. There was this study that Vanguard Investments put out, and they estimated that following competent advisor's advice could add about 3% net value to that individual client's life. And there are many reasons for it. It's not necessarily just because of the technical stuff. It's much more than that, right? So there's this pyramid of the hierarchy of like expertise value when it comes to financial services. And you'd be surprised at what's the mass and what's just a little bit. So the bulk of the value added is really being able to provide that wealth management with financial planning, discipline to stick to the plan, and guidance to make financial decisions, whether it's like, am I going to buy a house or am I going to continue renting? Am I going to lease the car? Or am I going to do I save all for my children's college, or maybe, or do I save for retirement instead? All of that. That is the bulk. That's the greatest value added. And then right on top of that is helping investors avoid poor investor behavior, like trying to chase market performance. This past couple of months, especially since the Russian incursion into Ukraine, it has created such a crazy situation in the markets. One of the things I did was to record a video and send out to all my clients to let them know, like, remember why we do the things we do. Remember why we do financial planning. We know they're going to be down markets, and we know they're going to be high markets. Because you're in this specific situation, we don't have to worry because of this. Now, if I hadn't done that, my clients would have wanted to be like, oh no, let me sell the investments that I have so it doesn't go down anymore. And it would have cost them so much more. Helping investors avoid poor investor behavior. And then right on top of that, a focus on total return instead of income investing. This is a very jargony phrase. What that means is really what we were talking about, weighing the opportunity cost. The total return is saying, like, what is the total objectives of this client? And we focus on that. Like, are they accomplishing those goals versus just saying, oh, my portfolio increased to this percent this year. What did your portfolio do? I mean, like, if you were saving to buy a house, I wouldn't tell you to put it into volatile stocks that could potentially get you a higher return. You would have a very low return because you need cash to buy the house. So of course your return would be lower than somebody else who's like, I don't need to do anything until retirement. So focusing on that total return. And then managing cost and fees. There are a lot of financial products out there that have so many different hidden fees, so many hidden costs. So it's important that in this pay-to-play system that we live in, that we're managing those costs so it doesn't erode the earnings that you have. And then only at the tippity top, that little part of the pyramid is asset location. That's what people think about when they talk about like investing a portfolio. That's the focus of most people, but it is the least important part. Behavior, good advice, and behavior support, they're the most important parts of this.
Marlon, at this point, we have about 15 minutes left. I do want to be mindful. We've got a lot of great comments and questions. We've got some great engagement here. So I just want to make sure that we talk about planning, that we plan for that as well. I don't want you to miss out on any good questions here. So whenever you're ready.
Yes, we are following it up here.
Okay.
Finishing it up here. Okay, so to sum it up, we talked about hold on, let me go here.
And I don't want you to skip any good information, but we got a lot of people that are looking forward to asking you some questions.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Okay.
So I'm just going to end on this slide then. What we realized, that to sum it all up, what we realized we need to win is that we first need to start with clarity before we start any strategy. We need to learn to triage for success, weigh the opportunity costs, leverage that EGBT model, and when necessary, invest in expertise. So I'm going to end the presentation there, and I'll open up the floor to those questions.
Okay, I'm happy to feed them over to you here. So we got a lot of people, number one, are very appreciative of your advice, and number two, that are seeking some answers to some questions. Again, we remind everybody, Marlon is just here for informational purposes only. You're not providing any direct financial advice or guidance, correct, Marlon?
That is correct.
Right.
And you're going to hear me dodging some of those questions if it posts like that.
Okay. And I know people are going to want to reach out to you directly for your services. So at the end, we can save a moment for that as well.
Sure.
So we have a lot of people agreeing with with your strategies. And I think there were some great points there. Can you spend a minute on student loans? Because one of the things that we are seeing here,
Sure.
Travel nurses, particularly over the past couple of years, and deservedly so, they're making more money, at least from a gross perspective, are making more money. But they also carry, and that's something I think that people forget, they also, many of them carry some significant debt in terms of student loans. How do you, from your observations, what are some strategies to manage that? You mentioned the case study earlier where somebody just said, I want to be completely debt free, but given the size of those loans, that may not be realistic.
Yes, this is really important. So I'm going to I always look at two things. I look at the math equation, and I look at the person equation. If I have a client in front of me and they're like and I tell them what the math says and they're beyond stressed about it, I know from my experience that they're not going to listen to my other good advice if they can't get past this psychological barrier to debt.
Mm-hmm.
So I may advise them based on their response and say, like, you know what, do this, even though it's the wrong math. Because what I want is my clients to move forward, any type of forward. The math tells us this. You put your money where it's going to earn you the most. So right now, President Biden has put a moratorium on student loans a little longer till August, right? So my math tells me that my money would be best spent by investing or paying off high interest debt.
Okay.
So we're never going to invest our way out of credit card debt, right? That you're not beating 24.99% compounded daily or whatever it is, right? You want to get rid of that. But then there are some really low interest loans that people have, and most people have kind of financial amnesia, right? You guys got to realize in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, interest rates were insane. Like your parents may have bought a house like for $90,000, but their interest rate was 13%.
I remember those days, Marlon.
Right? Okay. So it was massive. Yeah. And that's why your parents are like still paying off their house today, because they had crazy rates if they didn't were able to refinance it and stuff like that. Rates and taxes are historically low. And I know it doesn't feel that way because this is the market that you've been raised in. But the math says this: if you have high interest debt above what you can expect to earn investing, you pay that debt off. If what your debt is the interest rate on your debt is below what you could earn investing, then you invest and you maintain payments on the low interest debt. That is how your money makes the most amount. Now that's the math thing. Like I said, there's the human component, right? That some people just they can't stomach it unless they do it. And if it means that you won't even invest and you won't save and you won't do anything of that nature, then I would rather you make the worst decision and pay off your debt. But ultimately, whatever is costing you more is what you get rid of. And if it's not costing you anything, then you use that surplus money to make it grow for you. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me, Marlon. Makes sense to me. Just going through some comments and questions here, you talked about, and I love the way you put together a clear, crisp, precise kind of thought process in terms of planning. And I think that for a lot of people, they live in the moment and getting their arms around planning, it can be exhausting and mentally taxing. And particularly too with travel nurses, they're working crazy shifts, particularly the last couple of years. They've seen a lot of bad things happening. Probably the last thing they want to do is take 3 or 4 hours when they're not working, sit down, have a cup of coffee and get their minds around their finances. They deserve to feel better. They want to go out and have some fun, have some experiences, enjoy, as you said, that ride in that new car or whatever. But it's really hard to just bear down and say, you know what, I'm going to carve out time and plan. And I think we can all appreciate that. But, Don, as an example, Don says, I'm disorganized. It's just having a plan and sitting down to start the organization is exhausting. Amy says, yes, I feel like I need to take charge of my finances now, ! The really lucrative contracts get me excited to pay off my debt and build my retirement. So there you go in terms of that balance between debt, planning for retirement. Yeah. What are the rates? How do you balance that? But you got to get started somewhere with a plan. Gina Rose says, I'm feeling guilty that I haven't saved as much as I wanted to during the pandemic. I think we all feel guilty at times. We look and we say, have I saved enough? Have I done enough? And there has been this increase in rates over the past couple of years. What do you say for people, Marlon, that are like, you know what, I'm behind? What's a quick 30-second piece of advice for saying, I'm behind in my savings. I'm behind in my retirement savings. What can I do?
I'll say this. Don't beat yourself up. We all start at different areas. Like, I started college at 25, because I spent time before that in the military. Like, I started my civilian career late. People start at all different stages to do things. Of course, there's a very simple math equation. It's like, how much money can you put aside today and for how long determines how much you'll have in retirement. But the truth is, if you're starting later in life, you'll have to make some unideal decisions, right? You might, I live in Massachusetts. It's very, very expensive. I want to leave.
Tell me about it. I'm here too, Marlon.
Are you planning on retiring in Mass, Steve?
Not anytime in the near future. Not anytime in the near future.
But that's the thing, right? So you have to think. I have a client that that's a conversation we're having. Like, you might want to retire in Florida, Texas, Tennessee. So some of these places, these income-free tax states, are lower cost of living states because outside of Cincinnati, you can't afford it. And that's not a happy conversation to have. But when you have that conversation and you have those options, that's a little bit freeing to know, like, okay, at least I know that when I'm ready to retire, I need to be looking to retire in these places. Maybe then you start taking a couple of vacations, every other year to those potential places to see, can I see myself here? And that's movement. That's forward movement. It's never too late to start. Of course, it changes your quality of life and how luxurious your retirement can be, but it's never too late to start. So one, don't beat yourself out, because it doesn't make you do anything that doesn't create forward movement. And just start now.
A journey begins with the first step, right? A journey begins with that first step. All right, we got a couple of other questions and comments here. We were talking about taxes. Again, we're not providing tax advice here. Go to your professional. However, if you don't do some of the right things, Gina Rose said, yes, I owe taxes in 2021. I just finished paying them off over $5,000. Yikes. Those hurt, right? That hurts.
They do.
Without proper planning. Our own Rachel talking about social media advice, as you're saying, go to a professional, go to an expert. Rachel is saying the TikTok algorithm is dead set on me buying a duplex for passive income. There you go. Just this, Rachel, first of all, get off TikTok, right? Except for work.
No, I love TikTok. I'm on TikTok all day.
Second of all, but yeah, don't take financial advice from TikTok. We'll say that. How about this? You had a couple of these comments. Lisa says, I love having an emergency fund. It's so freeing. And somebody else saying, I'm currently living off my emergency fund. Rule of thumb, Marlon, again, the theme to this conference is the peaks and valleys of travel nursing, right? The reality is that, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, the number of job opportunities for travel nurses skyrocketed, right? I've been in the business for many years related to travel nursing, and I've never seen anything like it. The opportunities were just crazy.
Insane.
Well, those numbers are now dropping. There are fewer jobs there. So there may be a valley relative to the number of jobs out there. The jobs may not be as plentiful. What should travel nurses think about in between assignments? What should that rainy day fund be? How much money should you have in cash just in case you're in between assignments for a couple of months or more?
I love this question. And the reason why I love this question, because again, we talked about, one size fits all thing.
Yeah.
General consensus across, competent financial advisors is 3 to 6 months of living expenses in emergency fund. For my clients, because I know you guys are travel nurses, your income is more variable. And I know the trends. This is what happens, right? Every year, it's like everything's hot, and then it starts to slow down come April, and kind of flatten out throughout the summer, and then towards the end of August, it starts to peak a little bit more. It gets hot till Christmas, and it does that. It's like that. So I know that, right? But if you're just traveling, for your first time traveling, you probably don't know that. My clients, I insist on 6 to 12 months, because I've also noticed that whether it's their own choice, like I'm going to take some time off to go vacation, or because the assignments aren't what they want them to be, I find that most nurses take off 1 to 2 months of the year.
Okay.
Most travel nurses take it. So that is the reason why I insist on my clients having higher cash levels, because the variability of their income.
And Marlon, is that actually kept in cash, or is it
cash,
kept
baby, cash?
Okay.
It's self-insurance. It's self-insurance. Now, this is what sometimes I do, right? Like I'll keep like 3 in strict cash, and I might put the other other 6, 9 in a high yield savings account. But even so, like, we're not keeping up with inflation. The point is not for it to earn you money. It's a self-insurance policy that it would be too expensive to get a policy out there for.
Got it. All right. We only have a couple minutes here. We're going to go a little bit longer because this is such great information. We got a couple of people just generally asking questions about working with advisors. So
Okay.
Fred asks, can you comment, Marlon, on the role of a fee-based fiduciary financial advisor versus a commission-based advisor? And you lightly touched on this earlier, but I think that's a question a lot of people would have.
There is a lot. I'll try to say this quickly. So, fee-based, and I understand the question you're asking. You phrased the question a little inaccurately. Don't hate me. So, fee-based actually means I could do commission and I could do fee only. I think you meant to say fee only versus commission. And it's important. And I'm so glad you said it that way, because a lot of people don't know the difference and they think because it said fee based that they mean fee only. And that's not the case. Fee only, commission, fee based is a hybrid of both. This is what I said before about, like, you have to look at people's incentive to serve you and represent you. That is the level of their the level of their what's the word I'm looking for? Agency to you, right? So if somebody is getting paid by someone else to sell you something, you don't give them any money. They're just like, oh, this is all free. My boss pays me. You don't have to worry about it. Then what is their incentive to give you good advice and solid product versus someone that wants to give you something that they'll get the biggest commission from? That said, there are certain products that commission is the only way they can be sent to you. Health insurance, life insurance, homeowners insurance. Those are commission-based products. It's important to have like a planner that can do the planning with you and then go to the marketplace with you to find quotes and be able to kind of buffer between the sales part and the advice part. But unfortunately, there's some things that you cannot get without somebody making a commission. Doesn't mean that they're bad or what have you. But when it comes to financial planning, my thing is, I want to pay somebody for their agency. The contracts that I have with all my clients, I sign a fiduciary oath. And I say that I am legally obligated to do what is in the best interest of you at all times. And I would insist that whoever you work with does that too.
Great information. We got a couple more minutes left here, and I've got 2 questions I'll generalize here. Number one, a lot of people are asking, and by the way, if anybody would like to work directly with you, we're doing a scroll there. They can contact you at marlon@weshfinancial.com, right? If anybody was interested in finding out more about your services, Marlon, correct? Marlon.
Actually,
okay.
I'll give you.
Okay.
I'll give you. If you just go to talktoanadvisor.com.
Okay.
Can I make a little comment?
Rachel, actually, Rachel will do that for you. So if you just mention it real quick here, and then we'll get to the questions, we can
go ahead.
do that. Okay. But Rachel will be able to put that in the scroll for you. If you want to, you can just tell her right now what you would suggest, Marlon, in terms of contact information.
Yeah, so just so I have like a form, like a wait list that names go up on. So talktoanadvisor.com. I just sent it through the private chat.
Got it.
I don't know if Rachel can see it.
Talk
That's how people could talk to me. But
okay, just put it up there. But
okay, I see it.
Yeah. So
Let's
I guess
questions.
Two quick questions. So when people are looking for a financial advisor or somebody in that capacity to be their chief of staff, what are a couple of characteristics or track records they should look for in the remaining 2 minutes we have here? What should they look for when looking for somebody?
One, if they're a fiduciary.
Okay.
Ask the question and actually ask it specifically this way. Are you a fiduciary in all aspects of your practice?
Okay.
Because there's some technicalities where people are like, I am a fiduciary, but it's only if they advise on 401ks, but everything else, they're not a fiduciary.
I see.
Are you a fiduciary in all aspects of your practice?
Okay.
2, obviously, are you licensed? That would be good.
That's helpful.
Um, 3, I would ask them how they get paid for their services. And if they're getting paid by anyone but you, that would make me think twice, more than twice. So, are you a fiduciary in all aspects of your your services? Are you licensed? How do you get paid? Um, and there are tons of organizations that you can find these fee-only advisors. There is the CFP board. There is NAPFA, North American Professional Financial Advisors Association, NAPFA, I think it's called,
Okay.
.org. There is XYPN, their group of advisors that work with specifically Generation X, Y, and Z. And you know, doing a Google search for fee only financial advisor near me. Now you will find that there are a lot of advisors there that do tax planning, but they don't do tax filing. I happen to in my practice, but there are a lot of people that are kind of slow to do that. But you can kind of search for that as well, you know, to find advisors that also do taxes.
Got it. Got it. Last question, then we're going to have to wrap it up here, Marlon. But you know, we've seen a lot of comments about this is great. I feel like I'm behind. I don't know how to get started. I'm too busy working right now. I don't have time for financial planning. Give us a positive, you know, emotional support here to get somebody started. So you've got your steps, but what about getting out the door to take that step? What do you tell them? Somebody that's overwhelmed. I can't think about this right now. I've got to go. What do you tell them?
Well, I would say don't think about all that you have to do. What is just the next thing that you have to do?
Okay.
That next thing might just be, I'm going to do a Google, like today, I'm going to do a Google search for a fee only financial advisor. The next thing might be, I am, even though I'm not going, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I'm just going to sign up when I'm eligible for my agency's 401k. Even if it's not the best fund, you're doing something. That next step might be, you know, I'm going to set up an appointment to talk to an advisor. Just what's the next? That next step might just be like, okay, I don't know what to invest in right now, but at least I'm going to put X% of my income aside in my savings account, even though it's not really earning me money, but I'm putting it aside so I know I don't spend that. Right? Those are all better than nothing.
Yep.
You know, that's next things. So ask yourself, what is the next best thing? I do that in my life. I teach my 3-year-old son that when he has tantrums. What's the next best thing that we can do? And I think that mindset will take you really far because you're going to be like, oh, I only have to think about one. I only have to think about one.
I love it. Marlon, we're going to end on that note. Don't go anywhere, but this has been an excellent session. I think people here, I can tell by the comments, as you can see too, people are very appreciative. This is perfect timing for a discussion like this. And I love the way that you laid everything out. And I think sometimes with any sort of financial discussion, people can be overwhelmed by all these different things to think about. I think what you laid out in terms of kind of the strategy and those steps are very, very helpful. So on behalf of the Gypsy Nurse, I'd like to thank you for donating your time today to travel nurses.
Thank you for having me.
We'd love to have you back at some point. We're putting your contact information up there, so we really appreciate it. Rachel is back to kind of take us home here. But Marlon, thank you so much. That was fantastic.
My pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, that was a great session and so many great questions. And yeah, definitely if you want to reach out to him, you know, his information's scrolling at the bottom. And then if you want to share this with any of your friends or watch this later, just become a registered member on the gypsynurse.com so you can watch it on our on-demand events. So a lot of great information. You're making a lot of great money, and you kind of need to know what to do with it before, you know, you spend it all on the Ferraris and everything I see on the Facebook group. I get so jealous of all of your trips and different things that you're buying. So Definitely great advice. So that concludes our first session of the day. We have 2 more, and then that's the end. So join us today at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have the members of NATHO coming on, and they're going to discuss that recruiter relationship with your nurses. So thank you all again.
Great session. Thanks, Rachel. We'll talk to you at 3 o'clock Eastern time.
Thank you.